Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. This is a podcast dedicated to helping owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses build the premier accounting firm in their area, offering quality accounting services and getting paid what they're worth. I'm your host, Roger Connect, president of Universal Accounting Center, and for more than 20 years, I've been working with accounting professionals to actually help them do exactly that, start and build successful businesses. Each and every week, I happen to have on the show experts that are actually ones to help us as we work on our business, as it ranges from marketing, selling, pricing, client onboarding, client retention, tech stacks, and so much more. And today's going to be a phenomenal discussion. I've got on the show Ben Risser. Ben happens to be someone that is really an interesting individual simply because of the fact that he is a business owner who has the purpose of strengthening American communities with thriving businesses and nonprofit organizations. He is a fractional CFO, that's a chief financial officer, as we know, who has started his career in the aerospace industry. He's an aerospace engineer at the Boeing company. His professional journey took him from the aerospace engineering to syndicating in partnerships 6 large multifamily real estate deals exceeding 1,000 units in financial service and entrepreneurships. His business, Provident Financial Services, replaces financial uncertainty and financial situational awareness so executive leaders can confidently make decisions and plan for a future that increases the mission impact of their organizations. Ben has 2 daughters and 1 son. He's happily married to his wife, Gina, and lives in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. His hobbies and interests include a vast variety of things involving anything with tires, engines, hulls, wings, and rotors. Ben suffers from a low vision due to retinitis pigmentosus. I think that's how it's supposed to be
Retinitis
said.
pigmentosa.
Pigmentosa. There you go. And he basically has this because it's a hereditary degenerative retinal condition, which has been a challenge for him. But he has learned from that challenge through this journey, basically acceptance, growth, and faith. So with all that, Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Roger.
This is going to be fun. First of all, with regards to anything that has tires, engines, hulls, wings, and rotors, I have to assume you've got your pilot's license, right?
Oh, I would love to have my pilot's license. However, the vision issues stepped in a little bit too early. But man, I grew up dreaming and wishing and hoping to be a pilot, and went to school in aerospace engineering, and was hoping to get into being a test pilot. But God had other plans.
Yes. Well, with regards to your eyesight, I hope things are not degenerating still, are they?
Yeah, it's a slow degradation, but I'm pursuing. There's really nothing in Western medicine for this condition, so looking more to the Eastern medicine side of things, and the vision has been stable, and is responsive to the different things that I'm doing.
Good. Well, you're not yet legally blind, correct?
I am not. I don't have much peripheral, and I don't have much night vision, but I still have my central vision, so I'm grateful for that.
There you go. Good, good, good. Well, it's not every day I have on the show someone that's, first of all, an aerospace engineer, but offering CFO and advisory services. So we're going to start with a backstory. I'd like to have you give my listeners a little bit of an understanding of how you got here. So, first of all, aerospace accounting. Tell us the story.
Yeah. So I grew up loving aviation. My father was a pilot, served in the Air Force, and never thought I would have graduated college with the degree in aerospace engineering. Was a high school flunky, and eventually got my stuff straight, and made my way through Penn State aerospace engineering. Worked at Boeing, and while I was at Boeing, I struggled with feeling restless, and I really didn't understand why until I started reading the Robert Kiyosaki books. And
Oh,
he
yeah.
really kind of put a structure around, like, hey, a lot of people are either wired to be an employee, self-employed, business owner, investor. And that's where I discovered, like, man, like, I think like a business owner. I think much more big picture. I'm very visionary, very entrepreneurial. And where I was working in Boeing at the time was just, there wasn't room for that. That type of job and role was not an entrepreneurial, innovative. So that explained
Mhm.
my frustration. But Robert Kiyosaki really kicked off my journey into, like, you know discovering, like, my love for economics and finance. I pursued the chartered financial analyst designation, and achieved the level 1. And before growing family demands kind of put that on pause indefinitely. But the CFA body of knowledge, coupled with my engineering, problem solving, analytical mind, really gives me a unique approach as I help customers understand how their businesses create value and how
Mhm.
to report that value creation and the cost of creating that value.
Well, that journey obviously got you to where you are today. And this is what's going to be exciting because now you're offering fractional CFO services. And for my listeners, let's first of all start by defining what fractional CFO services are.
Yeah, fractional is just a finance industry term for part-time or the shared use of a resource. So if you think about a private jet, you can have fractional ownership of a private jet, which is means you're purchasing a portion of that jet's availability. So a similar concept with a fractional CFO is you're paying for a portion of a CFO's time, which may be perfect for small businesses that are just not quite big enough yet to afford a full-time finance professional, but usually they desperately need them before they can afford them.
I'm loving this description simply because of the fact that that term is used so much. Fractional CFO services, part-time CFO services, and it's important. I think that as an accounting community, we are clear as to what that is defining, what it represents as we talk to the business owners, as we help them understand what is available to them as a service when we're talking about fractional CFO services. So now let's just kind of take it up another notch. What is it that the role of a CFO offers that is different than an accountant, bookkeeper, tax preparer? I mean, what is the CFO role doing for a business that so many small businesses are missing out on?
In my experience, small businesses have a large functional void between the bookkeeper and the tax accountant. And in larger organizations, that functional void is filled with a controller and a
Hmm.
chief financial officer. And it it's really the tactical partner with the business owner that helps them understand the financial results of their operations, as well as helping them systematically plan to grow and break that plan down into quarterly financial goals and a budget. And it's really about the functional void is filling that gap like throughout the year, where you're walking alongside the business owner or the executive, helping them understand their financials. There's a huge educational piece to this, um, and and really establishing what I call financial situational awareness, which is financial intelligence, which is concise, high level financial data, and financial literacy, which is the ability of an individual to understand financial concepts, content, and format. And it's those two things, when you combine them, uh, that results in financial situational awareness, which is knowing where you've been, where you're at, where you want to go, and where you're actually heading.
I'm loving this. One of the things that I think is very important as it relates to the CFO role, and it's whether it's in small or large businesses, is it's the individual that's actually helping from an accounting perspective dictate the operations of the business as it relates to cash flow. What we're dealing with here is the business has different things it's doing as it's growing, as it's dealing with different financial needs, and the bookkeeper isn't going to step in and advise the business owner as to basically operational decisions when it relates to cash flow. The CFO does that. The CFO is dealing with where the capital's coming from. It's dealing with accounts receivable, payables decisions, the different things that are going on operationally to get the cash necessary to meet the obligations of the company. So that CFO role is hugely important and so often in small businesses missing because the business owner is running the company working with, let's say, a bookkeeper, a tax preparer, each having their own roles, but none of which are stepping into and advising the business owner as to what it is they should be doing as it relates to, hey, you should be collecting more money up front when you get these clients because the cost of goods are such that you're up front incurring these expenses, and yet you don't have the cash flow to actually cover the costs. So we've got a cash flow problem here. That gap is something we've got to close. And operationally, we've got to have the salespeople collect a 25% down, a 50% down on these orders. Otherwise, we can't pay commissions. We can't get the supplies we need to fulfill this order. And we're just going to sell a whole bunch of stuff and go bankrupt because we don't have the monies to actually fulfill these things. So definitely a business mindset here. So here's what I want to do now is, with that understanding and context, let's back up a little bit with your work history. You've got the aerospace engineer. How did you get to the point where you are now running an accounting business? I want to get to that
Yeah.
entrepreneurial side of things.
Yeah. So I was, while I was at Boeing, and, Robert Kiyosaki piqued my interest in real
Yeah.
estate investing. And
Rich dad, poor dad. Yeah.
yeah. And that's kicked off so many people's entrepreneurial careers. That's an amazing set of books that he has there. But
Mm-hmm.
I started, studying real estate investing along with the CFA studies, and really having a vision of, I think the vision that I had at that time was I wanted to be somebody who could build pipelines of capital to finance God's kingdom work. And so Kiyosaki uses the analogy of carrying buckets versus building pipelines. And carrying buckets is a lot of work, takes a
Yeah.
lot of manpower, it's not scalable.
Mm-hmm.
And my vision was always to, help create systems and processes that just automate the production of financial resources. And the way that I'm doing that now is, by helping business owners succeed, and building relationship with them and sharing my values with them. But to answer your question about the jump, was when I left, I got laid off out of engineering, but I had a large multifamily contract under contract. It was a 198 unit out of Fayetteville, North Carolina. I had syndicated that in partnership. So I got laid off in, I think it was September of 2017, and
Okay.
I had a choice. Do I go back and pursue engineering and pick up my family and move to the other side of the country, or do I pursue this real estate venture? And it's not that I didn't try to get back in engineering, but I think God had other plans. Nothing panned out at that time, and
Mm-hmm.
I went through with pursuing real estate syndication. I syndicated 6 deals in partnership, um, and during that time, built out the business from acquisitions to asset management to construction management, the whole back office relating to finance, and making investor distributions and reporting, dealing with lenders. Really built that team, built that process. We hired and trained people to replace me in those roles, and I ended up kind of migrating towards that CFO seat. And you know, doing value add real estate is fine when you have a full time engineering salary, but when
Uh-huh.
you don't, getting paid every 3 to 5 years isn't good for raising a young family. So I had an honest conversation with my partner, who was understanding and gracious, and said, hey, I need to spend my time, you know, earning money that I can feed my family with. I can't feed my family with equity. I have to feed my family with cash. And
Mm-hmm.
so pivoted to providing fractional CFO services to small business.
So are you now offering, say, bookkeeping, accounting, tax services in addition to the CFO, or are you solely in the CFO space?
So I started out solely in the CFO space. And what I found was, as I took on clients, I wasn't able to do my job because the accounting was such a mess. And
Yep.
so I kind of got pulled into bookkeeping, kicking and screaming. Um, and so bookkeeping is the foundation of financial intelligence. If the
Thank
bookkeeping
you.
is not done properly, it's all moot. And
Garbage
so,
in, garbage out.
exactly, I can have the most gorgeous financial dashboards, but if the bookkeeping's not right, they're useless. And so, I got into bookkeeping, started doing that, realized that was not scalable. That was I would spend all my time bookkeeping and no time on strategy and planning with my clients. So I hired a bookkeeper, and eventually I still found myself being pulled into transactional details. So I hired a controller. Um, and so that, has helped me stay out of the accounting weeds and really focus on analyzing data and drawing insights and strategy, and really um, being more forward looking rather than backward looking with company financials. Yes, we need to assess where we've been, but it's very important that we know where we're going and where we want to go. And so
Yeah.
that's I did end up hiring a bookkeeper. So we do provide what I call day-to-day accounting services, and
Yep.
I intentionally do not get into to tax prep because tax preparation is such a specialty. It's such a huge body of knowledge. Tax accounting firms are consumed with it, 9 months out of the year. And so what I am to them is a tactical partner in helping implement their strategies and recommendations throughout the year, as well as facilitating tax preparation for them. But we work closely. My controller, she's a licensed CPA, and she works with their work papers and makes sure that our bookkeeping all year long supports not only the tax preparation but also the financial reporting and analysis that we do on our dashboards.
Love it. One of the things that I've experienced numerous times is as I'm working with the owners of firms, they do get drawn into, especially after years of experience, into the creative space of offering CFO and advisory services, but they get drawn back into the day-to-day compliance work. And just as you were describing, one of the things that they experience is how do I kind of separate myself from the compliance work of bookkeeping, accounting, and such, so that I can do more client relations in the CFO space. And what you just described is what so many actually do. Eventually, it does require them to hire someone that can take care of the bookkeeping, that can do the transactional type business, and then that enables them to be still client facing, but now more in that consultative space, that CFO and advisory space, and ultimately, if they would like, even as a business coach. And so that's where I see a lot of people evolving, especially as they're considering adding to the bookkeeping services they may be offering, adding to the accounting services they may already offer, all of a sudden getting into now the CFO and advisory space. So I love the journey. You just seem to have come at it from a backwards point of view, which is
Yeah.
kind of interesting. Now, with that being said, who's your ideal customer? I mean, you've got a wide variety of work experience. Who do you feel appreciates and values the fractional CFO services that you're able to provide?
I would say, small businesses like construction companies or service companies or nonprofits. We look to work with people who are values aligned. We share values. I want to work with people who are trying to accomplish the same good things in the world. But I would say in the businesses in the $1 to $5 million range, where they've had enough success where they've outgrown their original accounting team. It could have
Mm-hmm.
been a sister-in-law who was bookkeeping, or um, and they really are now like in kind of like scramble reactive mode where um, they don't have clear financial reporting, or they just don't understand their financial reports, and we come in and we can professionalize those accounting and finance functions for their business. But also we work with private equity. Coming from the real estate space, I have a lot of experience in structuring private equity funds and doing the accounting at the fund level and at the asset level. So we do serve small private equity. Probably makes sense around for firms that have about more than 4 million in investor capital. But so I'd say that one to five in revenue, or greater than 4 million in investor capital, is kind of the sweet spot. I'm not super specific about industry. We have a lot of experience in construction, but I'm I'm a voracious learner, and I just love learning new business models, new industries, especially in the entrepreneurial space where someone's trying to bring a new product to market. And it's like in these early stages, how do we record all that so that when we go to raise capital, we have clear financial reporting and everybody understands what's happened and how money's been used, et cetera.
This is kind of a curiosity question, but because of your equity in the previous business prior to doing the CFO services and accounting, Do you have client relationships now that, as part of your compensation, you have a path to equity in any of the clients that you work?
Not currently with my CFO customers. CFO customers. I still retain equity with the syndications that I was
Hmm.
part of, but I think I would be, I'm open to stock options and stuff for startups
Yeah.
where, that's all they can offer when they're a startup. They don't
Yeah.
have, a huge amount
Cash
of
flow.
cash, but like, basically aligning my interests with the success of the enterprise, um, uh, is valid and relevant and practical for entrepreneurs who are getting started.
Yeah. Now, in your bio, I mentioned financial situational awareness. Let's talk about
Mhm.
that for a minute. How do you describe that?
Yeah, so financial situational awareness, when you have it, you can answer the questions financially of where have we been, where are we at, where do we want to go, and where are we heading? And those are four different questions that when you can answer all four, in my opinion, you have financial situational awareness. And there's two ingredients to financial situational awareness, two components. One is financial intelligence, which is high level financial data that is relevant to the executive in managing their business and tracking their progress to goals. And the other piece is financial literacy, which is an individual's ability to understand and comprehend financial concepts, content, and formats. So, like the three financial statements, understanding that format, a general ledger, and we don't want to get too down in the weeds for executives getting down into debits and credits. There's really no practical use for that at the
Uh-huh.
executive level, but making sure that they can understand financial intelligence that's answering those four questions so they can manage their business and plan to grow.
I really appreciate how you explain that, because when I'm working with my clients, one of the things that I really experience with a lot of them is the lack of financial clarity, which is to say, when I put in front of them initially the financial reports, my my common response from them is they don't know what they're looking at. They don't know how to understand, use, and refer to those reports. Now, over the course of months, I'm able to actually financially educate them to where they become far more literate as to what these reports are and how valuable they are to running their business. They see that there's a wealth of information there for them to make informed business decisions, but that's an evolution, it's a transition. And so, this situational awareness that you're referring to, I so often find that they are blind to the value of the reports until they're able to actually, in time, learn what it is that they offer to them as they're running their company. So I'm glad you're bringing this up. So, what's your philosophy as to the importance of accounting and finances to the executives and their running the business?
I think where the gap can be between an owner and or executive and the business is understanding what are the financial results of operations. There are financial consequences to decisions that executives make, and
Yeah.
the P&L, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement attest to it. And really, I think in the way I view it is I'm tying what the executive knows is going on in operations. They know what the value that they're creating for the customers, but tying that back to financial results and basically meeting them wherever they're at in financial literacy and helping them understand um, the financial results of the activities of the business. And once we have that understanding, now we can start to be more forward looking and more strategic, because we want to make the shift from being reactive to being proactive. And that takes time, like you said, of bringing them up to the point where they can comprehend these financial statements on their own. And now the conversation can get more strategic and not so much, where do I book this transaction? What was that transaction about? We can start thinking about where do we want this to go? How do we line up your trajectory with your vision for the company?
Yeah, one of the things that I really enjoy doing is, once they've got that foundational understanding of the financial reports, the history, as you might describe it, I get into then what you were alluding to earlier when you talked about dashboarding. It's getting into the KPIs. It's literally figuring out, okay, you've got certain goals you want to accomplish with the company. What does that look like? And as you have certain growth, you're going to need certain cash flow. And as you have certain growth in cash flow, you're going to have growth in payroll. There's a variety of things that growth's going to trigger. Can we plan accordingly so that we can
Mhm.
manage the situation and not be reactive to it, as you're mentioning? So, I find the creative space there when you're working in that CFO role so enjoyable, simply because now I'm part of the decisions going on. I'm influencing the success of the
Mhm.
business, and the business owner appreciates so much more that contribution that I'm bringing to the table as an accounting professional than just producing for them monthly financial reports. Would you agree with all that?
Yeah, I think the value in a CFO is really in increasing the independence of the executive leadership to comprehend, consume financial data, and begin to make some of those day-to-day financial decisions of, can we afford to hire somebody or purchase this piece of equipment? Getting them more independent in that, and then really helping them plan to grow. And then the other piece that a lot of owners may not admit is it's the accountability. The accountability is valuable. Having another executive level leader holding you accountable, but also, um, being there as someone to bounce ideas off with decision making. Because being a CEO or a solo entrepreneur can be a lonely space when you have employees under you and you feel like you don't have anybody else to ask questions to. And the fractional CFO is somebody that you know provides that level of executive support and partnership.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I think we both can agree to is once you get into this kind of a relationship, it's totally different. You are that trusted, strategic, cherished advisor, and your working relationship becomes a lot more integral. So, very, very important. So, I want to go back to a comment that you made earlier where you explained that you don't offer tax services. And one of the things that I liked about you sharing that is the fact that everybody gets to build the business that they want and offer the services that they choose. So, some people I work with are tax specialists. They don't do the bookkeeping, and clearly they get into tax advisory services or tax resolution services, and they have a great career and operate a phenomenal business. Others are doing just bookkeeping. Others may do bookkeeping and accounting. I mean, it's just interesting to me, each of the business models as to what people do. But I'm curious, because of your choice not to offer tax services, how have you worked with your clients to say, I have an associate that does this, I recommend someone else? I mean, are you able to actually bridge that for them, or do you just let them fend for themselves and find someone on their own?
Usually, they when I am hired by them, they already have a tax accounting firm that they're working with, and so it's really about building relationship and trust with the accounting firm, the tax
Hmm.
accounting firm. And we one of the first things we do when we onboard the customers, we meet with the tax accountant and say, what do you like about these books? What do you not like about these books? How would you ask that the books be done to facilitate the work that you're doing? And so it's really, like I said, we're a tactical partner with tax accounting firms, and we make them look like superstars because they make recommendations that without our help, the client may struggle to implement throughout the year. As well as facilitating the tax prep where their hourly billing, if they do hourly billing, is optimized for tax prep because we reviewed their tax work papers, we had made all the adjustments and journal entries, and we basically put a nice bow on it when we handed it off to them uh, to do tax prep, and they come out looking like superstars.
Yep, yep, I agree. I want to go back now a little bit and get some insight. Clearly, when you were starting this business, you were leaving a situation where you had equity in a company, but it wasn't paying the bills, it wasn't bringing in the cash as you needed to run your family. So you go to your wife and you say, "Gina, I'm going to start an accounting business." What was her response, and how has her support been as you started the company?
It's funny that you say that. My wife, she always swore she would never marry a business owner, and I bait and switched her. She married an engineer, and then a couple years into it, I switched and became this entrepreneur. Oh, I was entrepreneur. I never knew it, and you know, um, so she was. not all that thrilled to for that switch, but she's been a rock for me, and in entrepreneur and becoming an entrepreneur, and just there are times when entrepreneurs they have self-doubt, they run into walls, they fall, but my wife has always believed in me and supported me in this, and she sees this lining up with the purpose that I feel God has for my life, and so she's 100% on board. Though she'll say that certainly doesn't enjoy the bumpy ride, but she's been very supportive, and sometimes in the past when I'm just like, man, I need to go. I'm done with this. She's encouraged me to stick with it, and it's always paid off to stick with it.
Well, one of the things I see as a common thread through so many of the conversations is that to be successful, you've got to have someone in your corner. You've got to have someone that's able
Yeah.
to root for you, someone that can actually kind of be there when things get tough to say, stick with it. You got this. It's all right. I trust you. I believe in you. And so whenever we're able to each lean and say we've got someone there to support us, that's phenomenal. So I'm glad you've got that support. How about your
Mhm.
children? They're young enough now that maybe this isn't as relevant, but you've got two daughters, a son. What do you
Mhm.
hope that they're taking from them seeing you run a business? So how do you feel they're benefiting, and what do you think they're learning as they're watching you?
I hope they recognize that um, it's like the real world is tough. Sometimes employment, at least in my experience, employment, in a large corporation can provide a warm, fuzzy blanket where you're kind of isolated from the realities of the marketplace, at least to an extent with a large corporation. But when you're an entrepreneur, there is no warm, fuzzy blanket between you and the market. Uh, you have to learn what your market wants and provide it, and there's no excuse. Uh, I always tell my kids, when you grow up, nobody cares about your excuses. They care about results. Um, and so I hope that they see the hard work, and the realities of the world we live in the marketplace. And I hope they see the potential, when you persevere and stick with something, that business ownership provides opportunity that is really only limited by your ability and who you surround yourself with.
Yeah. Well, they're young enough that they're definitely going to be able to see a lot of what you're doing and how it impacts you, the family, and so forth. And I clearly believe that entrepreneurs, they can inspire within their own children so many things simply because they children oftentimes learn, you know what, I can probably do anything I want at this point, and that's very liberating for many. So I appreciate you sharing that. The other question I wanted to ask is regarding you. How do you feel starting this business has benefited your own life, and how is your life better because you chose this path?
I'd say it's been very character building. If you thinking about some biblical texts, Joseph was in prison for many years in captivity, but it was preparing him for the great work that he did, working alongside the Pharaoh of Egypt, and saving people from famine. You have King David, who was running from King Saul for 15 years, and all of that was building and preparing him to be the king of Israel. And entrepreneurship, you fail a whole lot more times than you succeed, but all of those failures are shaping and molding you. And for me, creating a it's been breaking the trust that I, kind of have in myself and have in my own abilities. And I'm really saying like, all right, God, I can't do this on my own. I'm just going to be faithful to what you're calling me to do, and you're going to provide the resources and the people that I need. And so far, that's held true. And so it's just really been a character building time, and just breaking off of of pride and self-sufficiency, and just making me, someone who's humble, um, and I lead by serving, and that's those are all things that I think kind of softened the cocky engineer that you know started all of this. Thought I knew everything and I could solve anything, and you know um, and all of that kind of gets broken over time when the marketplace clubs you into submission.
Yep, yep. I can hear in your voice the fact that faith is a big part of what you're doing, and faith is having a hope in something that's not seen. And more importantly, it's having a belief that what you're doing is for a good cause. And many people, when I'm speaking to entrepreneurs, they'll oftentimes mention a sense of feeling called or drawn to something, and they struggle to explain why, but they do find a drive where they're driven to do something that is outside of their comfort zone, and yet they persevere. They keep going. They're driven for a variety of reasons. And I love you sharing that simply because I think a lot of my listeners may be able to relate to that, that they can't articulate or explain it, but there is that drive to keep going and this faith that, it's all going to work out in the end. I know it's going to work out. This is going to, this is going to be for the better. And I really get a lot of encouragement from that. I mean, that's a good deal of optimism to actually believe that in the end things are going to be as they should, and that's exciting. So I really appreciate your insights and what you've shared. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take and Ben kind of wrap this up and come back to you for a closing thought. But before I wrap it up, I do want to invite my listeners, everybody listening, in the episode description, Ben is offering a free guide. It's the From Sales to Equity, what your financial statements are trying to tell you about your business. You can get a copy of this. It's a guide that I would encourage you to have, something that you can actually use as you're out there working with your clients. And then at the same time, in the episode description, you'll find a book that I've written called Your Strategic Accountant. It's here where you actually are able to learn what it is that the business owners expect from the accounting profession and how you can best service them, addressing the three core services that every business expects from the accounting profession that you can be providing and making good money providing as well. Now, with regards to these two things, go to the episode description. You'll get that information there. But as for a summary of this, one of the things that's really exciting to me is always finding someone who is kind of backwards brought into the accounting profession. Clearly, with the aerospace background, being an engineer, this wasn't something that he was initially pursuing. And so many of the individuals I work with happen to be people that have different work experiences and for one reason or another find themselves working in the accounting profession, serving their clients with bookkeeping, accounting, and tax services. And I'm always inspired by that simply because so many of us have to adapt and perhaps make career changes in our lives. And to couple that with the entrepreneurial drive is fascinating. And just to hear the successes that are going on there are amazing. But the other thing that I like about it is the fact that believe Ben has a unique perspective, having not gone through formal training in the accounting space, to essentially come to that CFO space and now be able to work with clients in a way that's unique. There's a perspective there. Now, clearly, Ben's gotten some training. I don't want to imply that he hasn't, but it's not that bachelor's in accounting that I think many people would think or expect. The other thing that I thought was very helpful is when we were describing CFO services, what it really entails, what the client is expecting when we're providing those services, and how that differs from bookkeeping, accounting, or tax type work. The compliance is obviously necessary. Ben was able to speak to the fact that when taking on CFO clients, the numbers are obviously the essence, the foundation of what we're able to do with our clients. And so you've got to have great numbers to begin. And clearly that necessitated him beginning to offer accounting and bookkeeping services. And so I like that evolution simply because I see it all so often that even when working with accounting professionals who want to move into the CFO and advisory space, they oftentimes do find that they're still needing to, or oftentimes offering, the bookkeeping and accounting services just because that's what the clients need. We need those numbers to be able to run the business and advise them accordingly. The other thing that I thought was very insightful was the fact that he can see that a lot of this success comes from the support that he's receiving from his wife, Gina, and also his children. I think family is such a core component of what it is we do. It's I think the purpose of why we do what we do, in my opinion. And so if we've got that support, we're able to have confidence moving forward to know that people have got our back and they believe in us. And so that's very inspiring. And then lastly, the faith that was coming out. I think there's a lot to be said with regards to our believing that there is a greater cause, a greater purpose to what we're doing. especially as we're interacting with our fellow men and at the same time working with our clients. So as accounting professionals, men and women, go out there to serve the business community, hopefully as we work with our clients, they can sense that commitment, that devotion to helping them be successful. Their success is our success. And as we actually, as accounting professionals, have that focus, I think we can really make a difference. So, Ben, what's a final thought that you'd like to share with the listeners?
I would say, for bookkeepers and accounting firms, I would encourage you to consider growing into the CFO, the strategic forward-looking space, because I think accounting professionals are well positioned to grow into that. There's educational content and coursework out there to help people progress to that, but I think it could be a great new line of revenue in your business, and it's really a more holistic approach to serving the client. So I know people have done it in the past and they've been successful. So just encourage people to consider doing that.
I love it. Love it. Excellent words. Final words of advice there. I appreciate it. With that being said, I invite my listeners to also go to the episode description for information on how to become a profit and growth expert. It's basically helping you to go into the CFO and advisory space with confidence, addressing the marketing, the selling, the pricing, and then with the Universal Business Builder program, how to actually deliver those services and competently serve that engagement with your client with the different things they need from you as a CFO and advisor. So definitely go check out Becoming a Profit and Growth Expert, and at the same time, the Universal Business Builder program. Now, with that being said, if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, I would like to invite you to do so. This is a podcast that is released each and every week with the experts sharing with us their insights as to what it is they're doing to, in fact, have the premier accounting firms in their areas, as well as different things that we need to consider as we're running our businesses. So definitely set your notifications to be notified as to when we release those episodes each and every week so that you can do so. I would like to also invite you to universalaccounting.com. It's there that we have actually collected a number of highlight reels, playlists regarding various topics as they relate to marketing, selling, pricing, client relationships, tech stacks, and so much more that you can actually dive into and get from the experts the various things that you specifically need for your company today. In addition to all that, I want to invite you to GrowCon. GrowCon is a conference for owners of bookkeeping, accounting businesses. With regards to owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses, this is the place to be. It's an annual conference for you to actually come and hear from the experts, basically seeing what they're saying from the stage we need to be doing as we're evolving as a profession. It also enables you to meet with your peers and collaborate, find various things that you can perhaps be doing together to better service your clients, as well as meet the team from Universal Accounting Center and what it is that we can do to assist you as you're working on your business, helping you be in business for yourself, but not by yourself with Universal Accounting Center. The other thing I want to also encourage you to do is, if you'd like, you can go to universalaccountingschool.com. It's there you'll find various things that we're addressing here in the podcast, principles and things that you can be doing to implement in your business and build the premier accounting firm offering quality accounting services. So check it out at universalaccountingschool.com. And then lastly, if you'd like to discuss these things and how they relate to your company and what it is you can be doing to work on your business, feel free to give us a phone call. You can reach us at 801-265-3777. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it's universal. Be safe, take care, and have a great day out there.